Welcome back to the ETF Inspector. It's Wednesday, July 30th, Declaration Day. This will be the video for YieldMax, weekly paying dividend funds, ULTY, the Ultra Option Income Strategy Fund, and LFGY, the crypto industry and tech portfolio option income strategy. For anybody who has not seen any of these videos, you don't have a whole lot of investments where you can see how every single dollar got put to work, but in these you can. So that's what we do. We go through every trade and every holding to look at how our money's doing. Reminder, as always, right? I'm on X at ETF underscore Inspector 1. Post when videos are coming out. I also repost when these funds and fund managers and brokerages, whatever they're called, I can't think right now, declare their dividends or distributions. So we'll start with those since it's Wednesday. But before I do, I like to start with thanks. So first off, I want to thank Sergio Barrios. Fantastic content, knowledge, and breakdowns. Enjoy your coffee. Thank you very much. Very much appreciated. And then I also owe a thank you to, where is it? Bob Peterson. He did a $5 super thanks on yesterday's video. So thank you very much, Bob. Hopefully you guys are watching this video and got to hear the shout out. So we take a look at I got two screens going. Take a look at the market today. ULTY was slightly up. Decent amount of green, a little more green than red. If you noticed on the thumbnail, we did have some changes. Tesla is actually being removed from our fund, and we added, what did we add? I can't remember. Oh, Webull. We've had it before. We sold out of it. We're back to it again. All right, and then LFGY didn't make any changes. It was only up very slightly. Kind of looks like more red than green numerically, but percentage-wise, I think it worked out in our favor. So we download the trades each evening around 5:30. We had a lot of trades to process today, and I actually kind of got a late start to it, so that's why this video is coming out a little bit late. Line 122 down through 233. So we had 111 trades to process on ULTY, and then line 239 through 299. So 60 trades to process on LFGY. But since it is Declaration Day, we'll talk about those first. Run down the line pretty quick. All right, so as far as our weeklies, LFGY, 47.37 cents. That's a 64, almost 65% annual yield. Chippy, 41.51 cents. GPTY, 31.52 cents. RDTY, that's a 0 DTE fund for the Russell, 2000, 34.61 cents. SDTY, similar, but it's for the S&P, 14.63 cents. And QDTY, same thing, but for the NASDAQ, 17.07 cents. YieldMax had another decent week with 16.46 cents. ULTY gave us another 10 cents, 10.08 cents. And YMAG was the low fund with 7.5 cents. So as far as the weeklies are concerned, you guys already know what I'm going to say because I say it every week. ULTY wins again, 84.27%. Really not even any competition. Next up is I say monthlies, but they're every 4 weeks, so you actually get 13 a year. Group D, SMCY. So these are in order. I leave these weeklies alone so I don't have to keep changing the formulas. But these are going from largest dollar amount down to smallest. SMCY was $1.85.15 cents. I don't know how to say it correctly. Winter, 1.6550. Actually paying more than Misty. Misty, 1.1835. I think the Misty Mafia is still going to be happy with $1.18. XYZY, 67.85 cents. AMZ, 64.15 cents. Aptly, 41.03 cents. Little side note, I provide coverage on AMSI and Aptly, among a few others, on my weekly video that comes out on Saturdays. DISO, 27.38 cents, AIYY, 18.08 cents, and YQQQ, 17.94 cents. SIMSI not only paid out the highest dollar amount, but they also were the highest percentage. The only fund paying over 100% this week, 102.34%. All right, we'll go over to ULTY's trades. Before we get into the trades, we'll just take a look at how things lined up according to my estimate versus what they paid out. So based on the IV, and if you watched Sunday's Retire on Dividends video, we got a little behind the scenes talk from Scott Snyder about how they use the IV. So I am not using it completely properly, so that's why my estimate was coming up lower than what they did. But I came up with 9.73 cents, so still pretty close. But I thought because it was a down week, along with not making enough to actually pay out, that it would be slightly lower. I guess 9.6, but you did hear me say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I did say, or Monday, Tuesday, I think we're going to get a surprise to the upside after hearing Scott talk. And it was just over 10 cents. I was off by 4.76%, so shoot me. All right, we get into the ULTY trades. Starts off with actual stocks. So put a lot of money to work. You'll see why in a minute, because we sure did bring in a whole lot of more shares. A whole lot more money came in. So not quite every stock within the fund got more shares purchased, but the vast majority. There was only a handful that got skipped. So with each of these, that will allow us to sell more options. I'll just highlight, we got rid of a pretty substantial, well, I guess not, $97,400, $5 million worth of Tempus AI. But the big sale was, that's a mistake. I dragged that incorrectly because these are both Tesla. You can tell by the price that they got it for. So we sold our Tesla shares. And then the other big thing was we added Webull. We've had them before. If you've been around long enough, you know it. But we picked up, 500,000, 1,500,000 shares. That's insane. Okay. We go through. We did some rolls. That's what the orange is showing us on the other page. It'll link up with orange, and we'll know which options are no longer in play. Buying to close for 14 and 15 cents. Selling the new for next week, 26. So they dropped them down $1 from 27s to 26s. Collected almost $2 a share, roughly $2 million credit on the roll to next week. Closed out the puts as well. AppLovin, this was just selling options to go with the new shares. $49,000 credit. Same thing with Bitmine Immersion, $430,000 though. Collected a lot of premium on that one. Webull, this is just a brand new, right? We just bought all those shares, so we started our strategy, our collar strategy. Brought in another $510,000 on that one. Same thing for the next 5 here. Bought new shares, so we get to sell new calls and buy new puts. Collected $43,000 for Coin, $58,000 for First Solar, $281,000 for Galaxy Digital. Little bit different on Hood, so I'll come back to them. And we collected $99,000 on InnoData. For Hood, they put it to work in a different way. So let's see if they actually bought shares of Robinhood. They did not. So they didn't buy any new shares, so they didn't sell any new calls, but they did put some money to work in the Robinhood category, where we sold a put. What did we do? We bought a put at 97. We sold a put at 91. So we started a debit put spread. So it cost us $1 million, but that was putting that $1 million to work. We will find out in 2 days how that works out. So they are betting that Hood will go down. We talked about Interdata already. IonQ closing out the 44s and 45.50s for 17 and 19 cents and selling 45s for next week. $1.1 million collected. Mara closing out the 1850s and 19s for 3 and 5 cents. So I know we like to see these, right? We like to see closing it out for pennies and selling, but if you listen to Scott, they don't like these. Because the only way that happens is our stocks like didn't go up or they went down, and we want our value to go up. So he would rather be scrambling to close things out as the strikes get blown through than he would be closing them out for nothing. But collected 36, 37, 40 cents, selling out till next week. $1.6 million collected. MicroStrategy, Nebius, and Reddit just selling calls and buying puts to go with the new shares, collecting just about 22,000, 113,000, and 117,000. Rigetti, we're closing out and rolling to next week and the week beyond. So closing the 1650s for 5 and 7 cents, selling 1550s for next week and 16s for the following week. All in all, collecting $2.3 million. New Scale Power, SMR, that's just starting a new option strategy to go with the new shares, 125,000 collected. Tempest AI, this closeout here, the 974, goes along with the selling of, 97,400 shares. So paying 44 cents for that closeout, and then the remainder 62s as well. 11,500 contracts, and we sold 62s for the following week, $1.88. As you see, we didn't sell short the new calls for the 974. We just closed these out because we got rid of the shares. So $927,000 collected. Tesla, this is just closing everything out. Since we sold our shares, we closed out our options position, and it was actually, we made more money selling the puts, the protective puts, than we had to spend to buy back the calls that we sold. $115,000 credit. Upstart, selling new options to go with the new shares, 111,000 collected. UVIX, this is that leveraged VIX fund. It looks like we just put some more. Well, we did buy some. So they've got a slightly different strategy on this one. So 474,000. So that gives us 4740 that we can sell. And that's what they did. But for some reason, they're playing this one slightly different. They sell the calls, they buy the puts, and then they're also selling puts. We'll see. A little bit different strategy. I'm not familiar with, there's so many different strategies, but so this one cost us 23,000, but there's potential to make money. Well, there's potential to make money. I don't know. This put would go up in value before this sold put would ever start to get in the money. Vertiv Holdings, I might have missed that closeout, 21.90. Sorry, it's late. Oh, I did. I marked it on that page and didn't mark it here. Okay, so we closed out our 155s and sold 148s, still within the same week, and collected 314,000. Also selling some more to go with the new shares that we just purchased. And then Vistra Corp selling options to go with the new shares, 125,000 collected. So obviously we did well trading, set a whole lot of collecting money, $9.5 million credit on the day for trading. All right, if we take a look at how our shares performed, I did forget to mark the high and the low. I know we had an 8% up on Galaxy. I think that's going to be our high. Biggest loss. Let's see. Do we have anything worse than 4.6 or 4.3? We do not. So Applied Optoelectronics is the biggest loser. We start with them. They went down 4.36%. Everything for this week got rolled. They still have next week's 29s that are 25% out of the money. AppLovin up just about 0.5%. No action was taken. They've got 375s for this week, 3.2% out of the money, and 400s for next week, 10+% out of the money. AST Space Mobile up 2.25%. 55s expiring Friday are 1.3% out of the money. Bitmine Immersion, this one's fairly new. I think we added them yesterday. 7.5% increase. So that's nice. Buy some shares and they increase in value by 3.6 million in a day. Shares are sold for 2 weeks from Friday. At 35, they're 1.74% out of the money. Coinbase up 1.63%. We've got 405s, 410s, and 415s, all expiring Friday, 7, 8, and 9, almost 10% out of the money. $43 million sitting in our First American Government Obligations Fund. First Solar down almost 1.5%, 192.50s and 195s for this week are 7.5% and 8.8% out of the money. Galaxy Digital was the big gainer, generally going up 8% in a day. Blows through your strikes. I did forget to change that color, but after how bad of a day yesterday was for every fund, every stock in the fund, we were far enough so we're still 3.8% out of the money. Robinhood up 2.69%. They've got 107s and 113s expiring Friday. They're 0.85 and 6.5% out of the money. InnoData up 2.65%. 50s and 55s expiring on the 15th are 3.1 and 13.4% out of the money. IonQ had a bad day, down 1.6%. I guess I should say having a bad week. They were down a couple days now. Under 40, so they went ahead and closed out everything for this week and rolled it. They still have 47s for next week that are almost 18% out of the money. Mara Holdings down 0.36%. Everything was rolled, so nothing to talk about on that one. Meta Platforms down 0.68%. We've got 750s for next Friday that are 7.8% out of the money. MicroStrategy up 0.1%, 6.3% and 6.9% out of the money on this week's 420s and 422.50s. Nebius Group up 1.77%. They've got 53.50s and 54.50s sold for this week. Just about a little over 3 times as many on the higher strike. 4.3 and 6.2% out of the money. Oklo up 6.5%, having a good day. 74s and 75s evenly split. 2% and 0.8% in the money, but no action was taken. Palantir up over 1.5%, 158. They've got 162.50s for sold for this week that are 2.4% out of the money. Then we've got 160s and 162.50s again for next week, 0.8 and again 2.4% out of the money. Qualcomm down 1.86%. 170s for this Friday are 6.8% out of the money. Reddit up over 3%. We've got 155s, 160s, and 165s all sold for Friday. They are all out of the money by 3.8, 7.1, and 10.5%. Rigetti was down over 2%. Everything got rolled. Nothing left to talk about on them. SMCI, this one's a little different, little interesting. They went up 3.5%. We've got, man, I'm struggling. Messed up my color scheme. I thought I checked all this right before I started. So we've got 60s sold for this week. They're 1.1% in the money. We've got 55s sold for next week that are 9.4% in the money. The puts that go along with these are down here, but then in the middle here, we have a call spread. So we bought 60s and sold 79s. Our 60s are currently in the money, 1.1%. So this call spread is working out. When does that expire though? Next week, next Friday. So besides the usual selling of calls and purchasing of puts, they also purchased a call and then sold a further out call. That would be a debit call spread or a bull call spread. Okay, new scale power up pi 3.14%. 54s for this week are 6.9% out of the money. I get an F on my review of my color schemes before this started. 56s for next week are 10.8% out of the money. Snap down 11%, 0.11%. Sorry, they got 1050s for next week that are 12.6% out of the money. Tempest AI down 0.82%. These were closed and rolled, so when we download the holdings that come out tomorrow morning, we will have all the new information corrected. That's why we just show orange here for now to show you that those are going to change. Tesla, we sold our shares, so none of this matters anymore. We don't have Tesla. Surprising. But at the same time, right, this is a high, for the most part, high vol fund, and Tesla, although it feels high volatility, it's only got a 45 for its IV, or it did as far as Sunday was concerned. Upstart up 3.6%. Man, I'm having all kinds of phone calls and everything going off in videos lately. Sorry. Upstart up 3.6%. We've got 84s, 85s, and 87s. They're 0.82 and 4.4% out of the money, all expiring on Friday. And then they've got 90s sold for next week that are 8% out of the money. All right, I put a little box here so I don't forget to talk about this. If you remember on the last screen, we talked about slightly different strategy on these 2 times long VIX futures. So they went up 1.1%. We've got 20s sold, $20 calls sold. There's 16.5%. More failures on the callers. Okay, the puts, the protective puts are at 16, but then we also sold puts on these as well. We're generating income from selling puts as well as selling calls. So we are really betting that these stocks, or in this case funds, will stay within this certain trading range. So for now, they're 18.5% out of the money. So we are winning on both of our sold or short positions. Vertiv Holdings up a little over 1%. The 142s are now 1.5% in the money. Seems odd. I guess they took the win on that one. So they're 1.5% in the money. 148s are 2.6% out of the money, and then the 155s were 7.5% out of the money. Those are the ones that they closed. So technically, as far as the puts are concerned, they only sold 2,190 of them, not the full 2,584. The rest goes with those 394 calls that are still sold. Vistra Corp finally up over 4.5%. 200s for this week are 3.4% in the money. I swear, I'm getting on my own nerves with all these mistakes. And then their 210s for next week are 1.42% out of the money. Okay, so all of that totals up to a $37 million increase in value. So you saw yesterday we had a really rough day, down $67 million. Today we bounced back $37 million of that. But our overall assets under management increased to $2,452,000. So we're quickly approaching $2.5 billion, and that's because the money just keeps flowing in here. 36 million new outstanding shares from yesterday. we're coming up on 400 million outstanding shares. So that NAV is before today's increase. So obviously with a $37 million increase, that NAV will come closer to ULTY's realistic. Next, we'll go to LFGY. We can get through them a little quicker. Less stocks. I swear, I say these guys, they hate me and they're trying to add more to kill me, and then the next day they add even more. But at least they took one away when they added today. All right, as far as LFGY is concerned, we talked about it. 47. They were the highest paying, highest dollar amount paying weekly, 47.37 cents. When I did my guesstimate video, I came up with 46 cents. And again, I did warn, hey, I think we're going to get a surprise to the upside. So either way, I was off by 2.89%. So I'm pretty happy with that. And since I'm the one giving myself the grade, I get an A. Okay, when we go through these, since there's so many small trades, I only really highlight the large trades as far as like complete rolls. So we did perform a roll, and if you're not familiar with options terms, a roll is where you basically buy to close your position and simultaneously sell to open a new position. Generally, if the if the price is right, you'll just sell it at the same strike price for the following week. If the stock went up too much, then you'll end up having to roll up. So you pick a higher strike. If the stock has dropped, maybe you'll roll down to a lower strike so you can still collect a nice amount of premium. Sometimes you have to go more than a week out. Sometimes you go 2 weeks out. But in this case, they closed out their 1650s and rolled to 1450s. So that makes sense. The stock dropped so much that it was pennies to close these out, and then they had to choose a lower price in order to still get a decent premium. All in all, totaled $104,000 credit. Just a reminder, I know I say it all the time, this is a less than $200 million fund. We just got done talking about numbers from a $2.5 billion fund. So the credits and losses and the profits and losses just kind of factor them down by 10. Lots of little individual trades. Then you get to Galaxy. Lots of trades on Galaxy. Closing out 33s, 34s, more 34s, more 34s. For some reason, they got them all separated out into weird spots. Paying anywhere from 10 to 19 cents and selling all 30s for next week, collecting anywhere from $1.48 to $1.95. Adjusting their protective calls as well, so they don't buy puts over here in LFGY, but they do buy sometimes. They buy the calls further out of the money that will just limit how much they would have to spend in the event the stock ran up through their sold strike price. So they do have those calls to sell at the end and then repurchase new ones. All in all, it totaled $78,000 credit. Next up is Mara. I believe it's Mara Holdings. Closing out their 1950s for this week, selling 1750s and 1850s for next week, resulted in $187,000 credit. And that's as all we have as far as complete rolls. So all in all, it totaled $381,000 of profit or credit on the trading day. That's realized gain. You can see here as well that we're going to have an increase in value. Not very large, but going up is always better than going down. All right, I did remember to do the colors over on this one, and then I think I just assumed that I had already done them on ULTY. So Bitmine, we talked about it already, had a big day, up 7.5%, but they are still 45% out of the money on these $50 calls that are sold for August 15th. Not sure what happened here. Maybe I didn't. So real quick, in the middle of this, yep. So we've got 1450s, 16s, and 1650s all sold for BitDeer. For this week, it went down 2.61%. The furthest out of the money got rolled. There's still 10 and 22% out of the money in play. CleanSpark was the big loser over here, down 2.6%. They've got 1250s and 1350s expiring Friday that are 9.5% and 18+% out of the money. Coinbase was up 1.63%. 420s for this week are 11.2% out of the money. Core Scientific down 1%. They've got 14s and 1450s expiring Friday, 7.2% and 11% out of the money. Circle Internet Group up 4.8%, still 12.8% out of the money on those 215s expiring Friday. The iShares Ethereum Trust ETF, or ETHA, down a fraction. What is it? 1 penny. They're 8.8% out of the money on those 31s expiring Friday. Galaxy Digital, the big winner over here, up 8%. 28.90. They've still got 32s that are 10.7% out of the money. The rest got rolled to the following week. GameStop down 0.44%. 24s and 2450s are 6.9 and 9.1% out of the money. Robinhood Markets 2.69% increase. They've got 75s and 1050s. I'm sorry. That's how many contracts there are at 117 and 120 for Friday. 10.2 and 13.1% out of the money. HUD 8 Corp up 0.61%. Their 2150s and 2250s are still out of the money by 8.5% and 13.5%. iShares Bitcoin Trust was down 0.5% today. No options, so it's just a change in value. Mara Holdings down 0.36%. We saw that they closed these out and rolled to next week. MBTX has no shares held. They just have a credit call spread, which is 6.69% out of the money with 295 as the strike that was sold, and a debit put spread going out to the end of the year with 230 being the put that was purchased. It's currently 16.8% out of the money. It needs to be in the money to have value or to increase in value. Mercado Libre down 0.15%. It's down in the 2300s. I guess it already was, right? 2.8% out of the money on those 2,450s. MicroStrategy up 0.1%. Still out of the money by 8.8 and 10.1% with those 430s and 435s expiring Friday. NU Holdings down 0.08% or 1 cent. You can see it there. 3% out of the money on those 13s. NVIDIA up 2.14%. They have 185s expiring Friday that are 3.2% out of the money. Opera down 2.19%. 9% and 24.6% out of the money on these 1750s and 20s. Both expire 2 Fridays from now. PayPal down 2.44%. They have a different strategy here. They're not selling calls. They're sold a put and then purchased a put. So they did a credit put spread. So currently, those 72s that they sold are 3.29% in the money. So this one's not working in their favor. Riot Platforms down 0.59%. They've got 15s and 1550s sold, just about 11 and 14.6% out of the money. And finally, Block XYZ down 0.75%. They've got 82s and 83s sold calls that are 5.6 and just about 7% out of the money. So all those increases and decreases result in a $816,000 increase in value. We did have a little bit more money coming into the fund. The outstanding shares increased by 75,000. Net assets still under 200 million. We can't seem to break it. So I guess the crypto industry has been having a slightly rough time in the last week or so, but still doing okay. And LFGY paid a nice distribution. So, all right, recap. ULTY had a credit of 9.5 million in their trading profit and loss today, and an increase in value of 37 million, and declared a 10.08 cent distribution for this coming Friday. And LFGY had a credit of 381,000 in their trading profit and loss, and an increase in value of 816,000, and announced a 47.37 cent distribution for Friday. All right, we got a dad joke of the day. So before I do, thank you very much. Appreciate everybody watching. Enjoy talking to people in the chat. Thank you for all the shares and the comments. You guys have been very supportive and really helped me with getting everything off the ground and going. So, and it also seems like you guys like granite shares, because I make these roundhill videos daily. They get like 200 views. I make a granite shares video just introducing some new funds. 650 people watched it, so maybe we got some granite shares in our future. But okay, dad joke of the day. Why does Waldo wear a striped shirt? Because he doesn't want to be spotted. It's pretty cheesy. Okay, good night, everybody, and good luck trading tomorrow, and I'll catch you in the next video.